मूलं गुरोर्मूर्तिः पूजामूलं गुरोः पदम् मन्त्रमूलं गुरोर्वाक्यं मोक्षमूलं गुरोः कृपा।
यं शैवाः समुपासते शिवैति ब्रह्मेति वेदान्तिनो बहुधा बुद्ध इति प्रमाणपटवः कर्तेति नैयायिकाः अर्हन्नित्यथ जैनशासनरताः कर्मेति मीमांसकाः सोऽयं वो विदधातु वाञ्छितफलम् त्रैलोक्यनाथो हरिः सोऽयं वो विदधातु वाञ्छितफलम् त्रैलोक्यनाथो हरिः मदीयहृदयाकाशे सदानन्दमयो गुरुः उदेतु सततं सम्यक् अज्ञानतिमिरारुणः। हरिः हरिः ओम तत्स जय गुरु. We shall have the 3 times chorus recitation of Omkara now. Interlock your fingers and put them on your lap. Sit comfortably erect, close your eyes, open the mouth and heart and join me. Harihi, Harihi. Harihi Om Tats Jai Guru. We shall have this verse. Prashantamanasam hyenam
Prashantamanasam hyenam
Yoginam sukhamuttamam
Yoginam sukhamuttamam
Upaiti shantarajasam
Upaiti shantarajasam
Brahmabhutamakalmasham
Brahmabhutamakalmasham
Upaiti shantarajasam
Upaiti shantarajasam
Brahmabhutamakalmasham
Brahmabhutamakalmasham.
Today we shall discuss the subject meditation, especially with reference to intricacies and their management. When you approach the mind, though the mind is yours and within the body, you are not able to make head or tail out of the mind. How many of you understand what is the magnitude of the mind, the potential of the mind, the possibilities before the mind? Have you ever thought about what life is? Life is experiential. Everything in your life is experience and experience alone. It is experience that undergoes the mystic transformation called knowledge, memory, etc. It is experience that undergoes a mystic transformation within our body, to become knowledge, to become memory, and as memory to guide and initiate further activities and interactions. How many of you are knowing it? The moment you understand that life is experiential, the next question is, tell me where the experience is taking place, transpiring. Where is the experience taking place? I may see a very near object like this. I may see a distant object. I may see the rising and the setting sun. Where is the sun? At a great distance. Are you ever going there to see the sun? No. But every day you can clearly say the sun is rising. How are you saying? From any corner of the globe you are able to look at and then say the sun is rising, it has risen, it has gone up, it is about to set. Where is this experience taking place? No experience ever takes place except in your own body and at the level of the senses. All senses, they have contact. That contact is the experience. The light rays will have to come from the object and they have to touch the cornea. When the cornea is touched, then only it becomes an experience called sight. And even that, the eye is only instrumental in generating this experience called sight. It is instrumental, mind you. The actual experience is taking place inside. And that is where the mind comes. The mind is only a functional name, as I said. The substance, it cannot be called a substance. The entity or the presence, it cannot be called a substance. The entity or the presence is actually consciousness. And I define the consciousness. Consciousness is that by virtue of which one becomes conscious of others and conscious of oneself or itself. So there is a presence animating and activating our senses and the body. That presence is sentience. It is at that level that all experiences are getting formed. Its functional note is called the mind. So all experiences are in the mind, of the mind, by the mind, from the mind. Does this assembly recognize this? Huh? So when we discuss the mind, you should understand we are discussing everything in your life. We are discussing the world. We are discussing the universe. We are discussing the atom, the molecule. We are discussing the particle. We are discussing the wave. This mind. It is the mind that tells you that you have a body. I have a body. The body does not sense the mind. The mind is apprehending or sensing the body. In the absence of the mind, there cannot be a body. Even if the body is there, it is useless. Understand it very clearly. So when we discuss meditation means it is an effort, it is a process, it is an attempt to enter into the mind arena of your personality and trying to bring about whatever transformation you like to. Mind is, though seemingly within, has infinite magnitude and resources. Infinite magnitude and resources. Its magnitude is infinite. It is capable of comprehending or reflecting in your mind any kind of a dimension. Imagine the endless sky and the number of stars hovering there. All of them are visualized, are experienced in your mind. So what should be the breadth of the mind, the vastness of the mind? When a vast world is reflected in the mind or experienced by the mind should be vaster than what it is experiencing. This point you are able to accept? So the mind is infinite. Its potentials also are infinite. It is the mind that has given rise to the world. The world is not born of another world. Then I will ask you how the other world was born. Ultimately, the first world, if at all, was not born of another world. The world consists of matter and energy. So the first matter and energy must have been sourced by something different from both of them. And what is the third factor? We already explained it yesterday. It is the consciousness and sentience that is animating and activating your body. I would like to recite a poem. I hold it as a changeless law from which no soul can sway or swerve. We have always that in us which will draw to us what we need and most deserve. Generally I recite Sanskrit poems. Very seldom I ever speak about English poem. This you can find in the book of Ralph Waldo Trine, In Tune with the Infinite. This is a book which my Baba, my Gurudev, said, there is only one book in the world which you can read. And he said, In Tune with the Infinite. At that time, many decades back, millions of copies of this book were sold in the world. Millions. It's available here also in Delhi. If you ask me, have you read the book? Not in full, but I like the poetry of the book. This is one poetry. I hold it as a changeless law. As a changeless law, I hold it, from which no soul, no one can sway or swerve. What is that? What is that law? We have always that in us, which will draw to us what we need and most deserve. We have that in us, which will draw to us what we need and we most deserve. If your mind is potent enough to this extent, please tell me whether you need anything else in this world. No answer? Huh? Your mind is so potent and so resourceful that it can draw to you whatever you need, and whatever you most deserve. Don't say, I need this, I need that. Also, the consideration is whether you deserve to have it. I have written some very good sentences in my life. It is my own discovery or my own revelation. What is that? You will always get what you rightly deserve. What is that? You will always get what you rightly deserve. So don't complain that I haven't got it. Who is to decide it? Whether you want it or not. You deserve it. You will always get what you rightly deserve. Conversely, whatever you have received, that alone you deserve. So you cannot say, I am not having what I want. You don't deserve to have it. Similarly, never seek from God anything. Then He constricts His giving to what you have sought. Never seek. Simply remember Him. Keep Him. Install Him in your heart. Install Him in your heart. When He is there in your heart, will He not look after you? Even if you fall, He will get hurt. The best and the most easy way of approaching God is to install Him in your very heart. You are all installing Him in the form of a picture in your puja room, so He remains only there, leaving you to your own concern. Install Him in your heart and see what happens. Meditation is to actualize this truth. Which truth? You have that in us which has got the capacity to draw to you what you need and most deserve. So start waving your hands and moving freely in this world. I stand amid eternal ways, and what is mine shall know my face. I make no haste, I make delays, for what avails this eager pace? I stand amid eternal ways, and what is mine shall know my face. The stars come nightly to the sky, the tidal waves unto the sea. So flows the good with equal law unto the soul of pure delight. Have you followed the poem? The stars come nightly to the sky without any failure. The stars come nightly to the sky, the tidal waves unto the sea. So flows the good with equal law unto the soul of pure delight. Let your delight be pure, then you will always get whatever you rightly deserve and need. Never worry about it. Now we want to actualize this truth by the process of meditation. We want to purify our mind, elevate our mind, expand our mind, reform and refine our mind, sublimate our mind, make it so beautiful, subtle, exquisitely graceful, so that in the hands of your own mind, you are nursed, graced, elevated and fulfilled. In the hands of your own mind. That is the purpose of meditation. There is a beautiful Sanskrit line. Manah kritam kritam karyam natu deha kritam kritam. Manah kritam kritam karyam natu deha kritam kritam. Would you like to recite? Manah kritam kritam karyam natu deha kritam kritam. Whatever you do consciously with your mind, that alone is considered to have been done by you, not what the body does. In your sleep, your body moves many times. Are you conscious of them? And are you responsible for it? Only when the mind does something, attach itself, so to say, to the body and the senses, and something is done, then you say, I have done it. The next line is a little romantic. Still, I think I can tell you how to prove this proposition. You see, Vedantins will pick any example that they want. Sometimes it may be a little ugly, sometimes uncomfortable. So he says, Enaiva alingyate bharya, tenaiva alingyate sudha. The hands which embrace the wife, the same hands embrace the daughter. Both are equally embraced from the same body and from the same hands. Is there not a difference between the two? And that difference is not brought about by the body, by the hands, but by the mind. In this way, mind done alone is properly done. Manakritam kritam karyam natu deha kritam kritam. Now, meditation is an exercise, a pursuit, an application, which is meant to enrich the mind. If you have to enrich the mind, spend time with the mind. Tell the mind that you should be enriched. I want you to enrich, and this is the way of enrichment. Unless you speak the language of the mind, approach the mind, get there, sit there. Suppose you want to teach a student, a primary class student, what will you do? Ask him to come and sit by your side. You go and sit by his side. Ask him to look into your face. Then copy what you say. So unless you sit closely with your mind, you will not be able to improve. So the enrichment of the mind should be done only by a mental effort. So you have to get into the mind. Then enhance the strength and the potential of the mind. Enhance the mind's resources in general. You feel the mind is weak, but you will find your mind is infinitely strong. Strong. It can equal God. Rama was only 16 years old, mind you, when Vasishtha started speaking to him for 18 days from morning to evening, as I said earlier. There, at one point, he was mentioning, Yoga Vasishtha Ramayana covers all the points, many points in philosophy, yoga, everything is discussed there. So I thought I will tell you an important verse. Sankalpajala kalanaiva jagat samagram Sankalpajala kananattu mano vilasaha Sankalpajala malamusrija nirvikalpam Ashritya Nishchayam avapnuhi Rama Shantim. What a wonderful statement. Sankalpajala kalanaiva jagat samagram Sankalpajala kalanattu mano vilasaha. The entire world has no basis except the mind and its deliberations. Whenever you see an object, tell me, are you seeing the object or are you seeing a mind imprint of the object? I want an answer from you. You see an elephant, you see the sun, you see the sea, you see a tree, you see your father, you see your children. All are objects of sight for you. Where exactly is the seeing process taking place? Where the seer is, he is seeing. Eyes are not the seer. The seer is within the body. The seeing is his action, his phase of expression. So all seeing processes, hearing processes, smelling processes, hearing processes, touching processes, all processes are where? In the body or in the mind? So when you say there is a world, it is a statement coming from the mind, from the mind's experience. Suppose I see an object like this. I will say there is an object only when the mind experiences the object. So can the object be disconnected from the mind's experience of it? Disconnected from the mind's experience, can there be an object? So you don't see an object, but another sees, it is connected to his mind. So between the mind's experience and an object which it experiences, I don't think the object can be separated from the mind's experience. Who knows whether the mind itself is producing the object or not? So Vasishtha says, Sankalpajala kalanaiva jagat samagram. This world is nothing but a widely spread network of the mind's imagination. Mind's network. It is felt in the mind, interacted with in the mind, and the interactional impacts are produced in the mind. Reactions follow in the mind. Everything is mental. The interactions are proceeding from the mind. They are sustained by the mind, resting upon the mind. And the interactions are concluded in the mind. The interactional impacts are imprinted in the mind. Everything is in the mind. Sankalpajala kalanaiva jagat samagram. Sankalpajala kalanattu mano vilasaha. Whenever you have happiness, whenever you are peaceful, whenever you say, I am comfortable, contented, etc., that is also a mind's own sankalpa and deliberation. Is there any reference to peace from anybody except that I feel peaceful? I don't know whether my question is understood. Whenever you refer to peace, how do you refer to it? I feel peace, I feel blessedness, I feel contentment. So this experience of contentment, can you disconnect it from the I? Huh? I am feeling disturbed, I am discontented, I am unhappy. That is also the mind's work. I am happy, I am contented. That is also the mind's work. So the entire world is a network of the mind's imagination. And whatever you have in the form of peace, contentment, freedom, fulfillment, that is also the mind's handiwork. Sankalpajala malamusruja nirvikalpam. Understanding the whole process is based upon the mind's sankalpa, imagination, creative thoughts. Rama, have you not done enough of it? People have been doing it janma after janma, birth after birth. Say goodbye to it and simply remain in the nirvikalpa, in the doubtless presence, the sentience within your own body. Nishchayamavapnuhi rama shantim. You will certainly attain peace and quietude. The whole process is a mind process. Mind process. Mind process. Mind's network. Mind's handiwork. Without the mind there is nothing. The mind itself has made and formulated the body. Imagine the fetus. How was it born? How does it grow? Does the mother do anything for it? Does the father do anything for it? It grows by itself. Here it forms the eyes, here it forms the nose, here it forms the ears. All the organs, in a few weeks, everything is made. And the child is ready to interact with the whole endless world. Whose majesty and magnificence is this? Whose handiwork is this? It is nothing but the creative potential of the sentience that is animating our body. Purvam manas samudidam paramatma tattvat tena tatam jagadidam swavikalpajalaihi shunyena shunyamiva tena yathambarena nilattvamullasati charutarabhidhanam. Are you liking what I am saying? Really? So shall I speak? Purvam manas samudidam paramatma tattvad. Please listen to me. What is this? Who will tell you this? Father will not say. Mother will not say. The teachers will not say. Even philosophical professors will not tell you this. What a great truth is this. I am telling you, I am unfolding before you what is within your body, not an external product. It is unfolding your personality. The first thing that was to be was Purvam Manas Samudidam. Say that.
Manas Samudidam.
That is where I am not satisfied. I am satisfied, at least few of you say. I shall be satisfied when all of you say that. Purvam Manas Samudidam.
Manas Samudidam.
Purvam Manas Samudidam.
Purvam Manas Samudidam.
Paramatma Tattvad.
Paramatma Tattvad.
The first thing to be created was the mind. From where? From the Paramatma. My dear souls, never make mistake of searching for a cause for the universe anywhere outside. No, no, no. No intelligent man will look for the source of the universe outside. Outside. What is the outside of the universe? They say the universe is endless. So is there any outside universe possible? Huh? This is an intelligence effort. You have to answer me by listening to the question, using your intelligence. If the world is endless, can there be an outside of the world which could have delivered or created the world? If an outside dimension is impossible, where is the source of the world? Inside itself. Inside itself. The child from the mother is born. The cause is not outside. The entire child was a creation within the uterus. Not from outside. Not at all. Everything is born of itself. Everything is born from within itself. Purvam manas samudidam paramatma tattvad. From the tattva, Paramatma is not a substance. It is a tattva. It is a pratyaya, an idea that you have to capture in your mind or intelligence. You say, I. Whatever you denote by the term I, that is the Atma. You cannot doubt the I. So you cannot what it indicates or denotes also. From that Atma Tattva, mind was born. Early in the morning when you get up, what happens, you tell me? You open your eyes. You feel, I am awake. I am awake. I was sleeping. I am awake. I was asleep. That I, which was enfolded in sleep, now got released and it is now awake. This awakening, tell me, is it a bodily development or an inner mental development? That is how everything is born. The world which I see and interact with, it is my business. It is a world I see, I interact with. So that world comes to me after I am there. Only when I am there, the world is there which I perceive and I interact with. So what is the first factor? The I. And what is the second factor? The mind, that wakeful expression. Purvam manas samudidam paramatma tattvad tenadadam jagadidam swavikalpajalai. It is from that mind which started spinning and weaving thoughts, emotions, inquiries, knowledge, findings. It is that mind that does this spinning and weaving task. Tena jagadidam swavikalpajalai. By virtue of its own creative process, it has spread, manifested the whole infinite world. Shunyena shunyamiva tena yathambarena Neelatvamulasati charutarabhidhanam. If the world is colorful, are you with me? Really? If the world is colorful, it is colorful before your eyes. Is there any color? Huh? Why are you so lukewarm response? It is your eye that generates colors. It is your eardrum that generates sound. It is your nose that causes smells. It is your tongue that creates taste. When the tongue is coated and you have no taste for food, all the different items of food are given, but you don't have any taste. Where are they gone? Taste. So the taste is derived from the nose. Taste is derived from the tongue. The smell is derived from the nose. The colors are derived from our eye. So who makes the world colorful? Please tell me. Not I, eyes. E-Y-E-S. Our eyes. So all the colors are born of the eyes. All the sounds are born of the eardrum. And these are in turn made by the sentience within. Tenatatam jagadidam swavikalpajalai. How this color comes off? He says, Shunyena shunyamiva tena yathambarena neelatvamulasati charutarabhidhanam. When the sky has absolutely nothing, especially in the autumn season, you will find everything becomes void. In that void, it assumes a beautiful, gently blue color. Like that, the whole universe manifests. What shall I say? The whole universe manifests its manifoldness only because of our mind and its sankalpana process. Therefore, Rama, the 16-year-old Rama, is taught. And he lived long. After getting all these lessons, he became enriched and empowered. He sat on the throne, ruled the country for a long time to the satisfaction of all his subjects, including abandoning of his own Sita in order to be worthy of the subjects. He did not consult anybody. He called Lakshmana and the others. If you have love for me, never raise a voice of protest. Take your sister-in-law. She wanted to live in the company of sages for a short while. So take her under that pretext. And when you go to Valmiki's cottage, hermitage, leave her there and then announce that I have abandoned her. Never say a second word. We belong to the Ikshvaku dynasty. Our heredity is very great. I don't want to cast any aspersion to this otherwise scintillating, brilliant dynasty. If a single subject has doubt about me, I cannot sit on the throne as a ruler. A ruler can use his sword against anyone. He stands by propriety. And if his judgment is proved wrong, he goes and commits suicide, my dear souls. Our kings were having so much of integrity. If at any time they find that their punishment was improper, they don't live. They abandon the throne. Die. So much was the integrity of our rulers. So you should understand where from they derive their power. From the character, from the integrity, from the sense of sacrifice, supreme responsibility that they felt. So Sri Rama was told all these, he absorbed them, and he had a glorious, incomparable mind. With that he ruled the kingdom and ultimately left it, went into the Sarayu river. All our great people have finally left. Nobody held to anything. Everybody left. Sankalpa samkshaya vashat galide tujitte samsaramo Sankalpa samkshaya vashat galide tujitte samsara mohamihika galita bhavanti swachham vibhadi sharadiva kamagatayam Neelattvamullasadi charutarabhidhanam. Are you interested in listening to these verses? Sankalpa samkshaya vashat galide tujitte. You can enter into the mind through the meditational process. As I mentioned to you, taking the help of an optional thought which should represent the ultimate aim and objective of your life in a few letters. It cannot have many letters, maximum 5 or 6 letters. You must be able to say what I need in my life for my fulfillment. Make it an optional thought and go on repeating it. Automatically you entered the mind, and entering the mind through the optional thought, you have to guide the mind, regulate the mind, reform it, refine it, rarefy it, and take it to wherever you want. So he says, Sankalpa samkshaya vashat galide tujitte. As the mind is intensely thinking now, follow my words very carefully. The mind has got only 2 positions. Either it is thoughtful or it is thought-free. Don't say thoughtless. Either it is thoughtful or it is. If you treat the thoughtful mind with an optional thought, the optional thought will remain there for a little while, something like even 5 minutes or so. When the 5 minutes the optional thought remains in the mind has no business to thrive. It always lives on duality and plurality. If the optional thought alone reigns there, automatically the mind will simply it will fall. So he says, all the wonderful sankalpas, the sankalpana process that the mind undergoes now, all of them will come to a sense of cessation. The legs have got how many positions? Either it will stand up, walk, or that's all what it will do. Everywhere it is like that. Either it will move or it will move not. The fan, or everywhere it is like that. So either the mind is thoughtful or it is thought-free. So lead the mind to a state of thought-freeness. It is possible. Now you are encouraging the thought, wanting the thought, multiplying it, reinforcing it. In the same manner, spend some time in meditation, entering into your mind, trying to reduce the thought process, make the thought process lighter, feebler, slower, lighter, feebler, slower. Like your fast pace is reduced, walk slowly, further slowly, still further. Tell me what is the slowest? Huh? The same thing happens to the mind. Sankalpa samkshayavashat galite tu chitte. When the mind process, the thought process, samsara mohamihiga galita bhavanti. The entire network of the worldly clouds, everything falls. You don't have to treat the world objectively. Shall I tell you an episode? My Gurudev was always given to Shirshasana. I don't know how many hours he was standing. I have seen him standing at night, early in the morning, maybe 9 o'clock, then in midday, afternoon, towards the evening, dusk. Every time I have found him. One day he said he was traveling. So with the passengers, some kind of an argument took place. And the argument became very heated. So what he did was, he went to the lavatory and stood on the head. Can you imagine? He went to the lavatory and stood on his head. And I don't know how much time he stood. After that, when he came back, everybody was friendly. The whole place was harmonious and peaceful. This is what he told me. This is what happens when you treat the mind. Sankalpa samkshayavashat galite tu chitte samsara moha mihiga galita bhavanti. The entire worldly manifold, it simply falls. Shuddham vibhadi sharadiva kamagadayam. Everything becomes pure, placid, quiescent, homogeneous. Just like the sky becomes empty, absolutely free in the autumn season. Sharadiva kamagatayam. Shuddham vibhadi sharadiva kamagatayam. Neelattvamul chinmatramekam ajamadyamananta antaha. Chinmatramekam ajamadyamanantamantaha. If you know Sanskrit, it makes a lot of difference. Everything becomes chinmatra. Say that. What is chinmatra? The word chit refers to consciousness, sentience. So everything becomes consciousness alone. Chinmatram, egam, the singular, the only one. Ajamadyamanantamantaha. It is the unborn, it is the primordial, and it is the ultimate. Whatever we refer to the ultimate, the post-pralaya presence, and the pre-creation presence, and the present middle presence, all of them, it arises within your heart, within your mind. That is why our dharma, our dhyananishta, our jnananishta, it is considered to be the supreme. It makes you the emperor of the world. You are not interested in gold. Even if a whole planet is converted into gold and given to you, you will say, no, I don't want. It makes you so abundant, so sufficient within yourselves. You understand? The entire key, it is your mind. And the mind is an expression of consciousness. And the consciousness is neither matter nor energy, but the source of both. The source of both. Chinmatrame kamajamadyamananta amtaha. This mind is something very, very important, he says. Dehe kshade vibitha deha ganam karodi swapnavana vivanavam navamashu chetaha chitte kshade tu nakarodihi kinchideva dehastadasamanupalaya chittaratnam. My dear Rama, you are young. Listen to what I say. You always follow the chittaratna, the mind jewel. This is what I have to tell you. Follow your mind jewel. It is a jewel that you have. Jewel, unequaled, unparalleled. There is no equal for it. Even God will not equal your mind jewel. Such a great thing that you have. Access it through meditation. Sit 20-25 minutes to begin with. Increase it to 40 minutes. I shall be happy if you can sit at least up to 50 minutes. Initially, it will take some time for you to deal with the vagaries of the mind, the desultoriness of the mind. Thereafter, the mind will become calm, and the calm mind will become deeper and deeper. And there will come that you will get into a wonderful state of self-absorption. Dehe akshade vividha deha ganam karodi swapnavana vivanavam navamashu chetaha. Yesterday I raised a question. Somebody has written an email for that. Between the mind and the body, can you say which is more important? I asked. Not all people answered me. You will find ultimately there is no body, only the mind. At present we have the distinction between body and the mind. So comparatively I am asking you, which is more important? So he says, if you can compare the two, compare and find out. Dehe akshate. The body is lying intact in sleep. Intact. It lies on the cot. After having eaten, the food is not digested fully. It is still there. You are not hungry. At that point of time, you went to sleep. Everybody knows that you are on the cot asleep. What does your mind do? It creates a dream. And in the dream, it creates a world. It travels in the world for which it has made another body. It meets a number of other people during the course of the travel. All the other bodies it made. So the mind is capable of making any number of bodies when the body is lying intact, alone, safely on the cot. You tell me which is more important now. Dehe kshade vividha deha ganam karodi swapnavana vivanavam navamashu chedaha. Just like in the dream world, newer and newer bodies are made. Chitte akshadedu nakarodihi kinchideva. In the same manner, without the mind, can the body do anything? Huh? So tell me which is basic, which is more important. This is how our Vedantic science makes you say yes. You cannot escape. It is so much rational. Our mind creates a world. This is the one pre-space entity that you can notice. When you went to sleep, you are totally disconnected from the world, from the earth, from the water, from the air, from the fire, from the space, from everything. So when we are disconnected from everything, in the dream, the mind produces the Panchabhautik world, including space. So we have found a pre-space entity called the mind within us, the sentience. From that arose all the Panchabhutas. Tell me, who can deny this statement? First I said, you cannot find the source of the world outside the world. It is impossible. If no outside discovery can be made, we are obliged to turn to our own inside. And this is the discovery we have. Chitte kshadedu nakarodihi kinchideva snehastatastheha tadassamanupalaya chittaratnam. My dear Rama, you are very young. You have a lot of time to actualize what I say, to pursue the sadhana I tell you, to follow the wisdom I impart and instill. So carry on. Follow your mind. Enrich it, decorate it, ornament it, beautify it, deck it in any manner you like. Have a beautiful, exquisitely beautiful mind. Have no ill will for anyone in this world. If at all, be a lover of the universe. Try to help if you can others. At least do not hinder anybody. As Bhagavad Gita puts it, Adveshta sarva bhutanam. Have no hatred for anybody in this world. Make your mind golden, exquisitely beautiful. The body's beauty, I cannot credit you or discredit you with. We are all born beautiful or born ugly. And how can you be given the award for what? Worldly beauty? Either your mother or father should be given. They also are not responsible. Some child is born beautiful. Tell me who is responsible for it. So this presentation has no meaning. Your mind you can make beautiful or ugly. You are the architect of your mind. There is enough time after you become an adult. So he says, Deha tadaha samanupalaya chittaratnam. Now what is the state we have to reach by meditation? Again I quote to you from Kathopanishad. Yada panchavadhishtante jnanani manasa saha buddhischana vijayeshtadi tamahuhu paramam gadim. In 32 letters, Yama explains to the young Nachiketas. Nachiketas is younger than all of you. A young boy, not even like Rama, much younger. And that boy is addressed by Yamadharmaraja. Yada, when panchavadhishtante, when all the senses, 5 senses remain still, non-active, jnanani manasa saha, along with the mind also does not think. Buddhischana vijayeshtadi, the intelligence also does not flicker. Tam ahuhu paramam gadim. That is the supreme state. Have you followed me? No. What is the supreme state? From Vaikuntha an aircraft comes. Golden aircraft. There are people, they extend the golden umbrella, ask you to get into it, and we are going to Vaikuntha. This is what many people feel. My dear souls, you are deluded. There is no Vaikuntha at all. You have to create the Vaikuntha within yourself. Vigunthasya bhavaha Vaikunthaha. When you are able to feel that this body is not I, this body is a perception, a cognition of the consciousness I have within myself, I am that consciousness. When you have that body-less awareness, that is called Vaikuntha. If there was a Vaikuntha, I think our rockets must have discovered, pierced them. Yada panchavadhishtante jnanani manasa saha buddhischana vijayeshtadi tam ahuhu paramam gadim. So it is outward and external, bodily, mental and intelligential stillness and absorption, which Parikshit had. On the 7th day, after listening to Shuka Maharshi for all the 6.5 days, then he said, I am expressing my gratitude to you, my dear sage. I am grateful to you for having arrived at this critical scene to help me, to advise me. I listened to you. My questions I raised, doubts I raised, you have clarified every one of them. I have understood. I understand the whole world is a projection, a display, an extension of my own mind. Here, I withdraw my senses from the world. I withdraw my mind from the senses. I withdraw the intelligence from my mind. And here I go into myself, into my own inmost depth. And he got absorbed. Shuka Maharshi had already left the place after having fulfilled his mission of instruction. Then the faithful Takshaka arrived on the scene and administered his fateful bite From the poison arose blazing fire, in which Parikshit's body was burnt to ashes. But Parikshit was not there at all. His body alone was there. The consciousness which was animating him, animating the body, that completely got sunk into its own depth. The episode is narrated by the onlookers around, but not by Parikshit. This is the effect your mind can bring about, my dear souls. Don't set limits to the body, limits to the mind. Don't set limits. Sky is the limit. We have now perhaps a stony mind. At least have an earthy mind. Have a watery mind. An airy mind. Have a spatial mind. And ultimately have a self-mind. We are going to accomplish it by the practice of meditation with the help of an optional thought. How the mind can be transformed is best demonstrated by Bhagavad Gita itself. Arjuna spent 12 years in forest, leading a very austere life. Through austerity, he obtained Pashupadastra. Gandiva also he had obtained before that. And he came ready to fight the war. But in the far front he crumbled. He was unable to stand. Gandiva slipped from his hand. Unable to stand, cryingly, sobbingly, weepingly, with the mind whirling very fast, he sat and said, I will not fight. I will leave the battlefront, become a mendicant, go a-begging for my food and livelihood. This much he said. Luckily and fortunately, Krishna was there. He said, no, this is a battlefield. Here the fighter speaks in a fighting language, not in a retreating language. Look, everyone here has come with a resolve to fight his enemy and kill him or get killed by him. Nobody goes back from the battlefield alive. Battlefield is not meant for that. So yours is a delusion. It is a weakness of your heart. I cannot allow it. In this critical moment, why are you speaking like that? Get rid of your delusion and weakness and get up, Arjuna, he said. Arjuna was suddenly shocked with an awakening. My dear friend Krishna speaks to me, saying that what I do is wrong. It is not sympathy that is called for here. Mine is born not sympathy, but it is unmanliness and weakness. Okay. The tears stopped. Arjuna became an inquirer. The mind subsided, the emotions subsided, and the intelligence rose. And pertinent questions he asked. Okay, I shall fight, but how? I am not able to. You have stationed the chariot in front of Bhishma, my grandfather, and Drona, my teacher. They are respectable people. The moment I see them, I should fall on their feet and seek blessings. Instead of that, how can I discharge piercingly their body? Sharp arrows to pierce their body. I shall do it, but how? I am not able to do it. Empower me. This was the question. This is how we evolve, my dear souls. There are so many cobwebs within our body in the form of delusion, ignorance, and emotional entanglement. All of them will have to be removed. Meditation is a process to achieve it. Krishna started speaking in an enlightening manner. The first chapter, second chapter, third, fourth, fifth. And in the sixth chapter, he speaks about meditation. That meditation is necessary to understand whatever he has spoken, to actualize the message. So in meditation lies the key for spiritual understanding. And what will the meditation do? It will completely completely look after your life. Krishna first of all said that everyone has the imperishable presence within him. That is our identity. Natvevaham jadunasam natvam neme janadhipaha najaivana bhavishyamaha sarve vayamatah param. Arjuna, understand this. There was no time when I was not. You are not. Bhishma, Drona and the others were not. There is not going to be a time when we shall not be. That we are present now is very clear. If we are present now, Arjuna, we were present and we shall be. Existence will never become non-existent, and non-existence cannot become existent. If we are existing now and are living and present now, we were present and we shall be present. Never speak or think the language of death is a misnomer. Are you following me? Never speak about death. Death for whom? Maximum you can say, the biological body is not able to sustain its birth and circulation, hunger and thirst. It is a failure of the body. What of it to you? Are you the body? Are you the body or you have a body? When you have a body, why do you say, I am the body? You have a flat. Do you ever say, I am the flat? You have a car. Do you ever say, I am the car? Then why do you say the body you have, I am the body? Correct yourself. Speak the fact. Never confuse. Be very sure. The body is cognized by the mind. It is a cognition for the mind. It is not even a product. It is a cognition. It is a comprehension. It is an apprehension. It is a recognition. It is an idea. It is a pratyaya. If you really do meditation, there will come a time when you feel. I initiated a man in Malaysia. After some time he said, Swamiji, I have no body. Where is my body gone? The body itself is saying, where is the body gone? What does it mean? It happened. The mind that makes you feel the presence of the body, it makes you unfeel the presence of the body. In sleep, did you ever have the body? In sleep, did you ever have the body? You are unconscious of the body. That is the symptom of sleep. A body that is present for 17 hours, how could it become absent for 7 hours? So is the presence an illusion, or the absence or illusion, or both illusion? This is India. This is our spiritual wisdom, my dear souls. Before its rational and penetrating inquiry, none can escape. None can escape. What was he discussing? Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukhadukhadaha agamapayino anityaha tan titikshasva bharata. The entire life is interactional. Interaction between the senses on your body and the objects around. Any time throughout the waking state, it is interaction. Either residential interaction or professional interaction or societal interaction. The interacting individual remains the same. The rest of the objects go on changing and varying. In the whole interaction, which takes place in the 5 sensory levels. So the interactions are fivefold. The objects of the world are numerous, endless, and you interact with any of them, many of them, or all of them. But the interactions are simply fivefold because of the 5 senses in us. So who determines or decides these interactions, you tell me? In my interactions with the world, is the world determining the interaction or my senses determine the interactions? Are you sure? Where are the senses? in your body. So can you not regulate, reform and refine the interactions because you have the senses in you. And the whole interactions with the infinitely various world, they are reduced into 5 in the level of the senses. They are further reduced into 2 in the level of the mind because these interactional impacts are considered to be happy or unhappy, pleasant or unpleasant. So the 5 sensations finally in the mind level get reduced into 2, and the 2 also do not remain forever. At the end of the day, those 2 disappear and you go into sleep. Now tell me, what do you understand from this? The entire world is made a world by our senses. It is categorized by our senses. And it is reduced into sukha and dukkha by our mind. And those sukha dukkha's also are obliterable, wipeable by us deeper down. So, can you not dissolve and obliterate every impact, all impacts of all interactions in the world? Take your time. I have no objection. Only when you wake up, the interactions start. So your mind, you are the source of interactions. And you are the terminus of the interaction. All of them are subsisting on you. They are 5 in the level of the senses. Shabda, Sparsha, Rasa, Rupa, Gandhas. Sukha and Dukkha in the mind. And deeper down, they also are dissoluble. They also get dissolved. So what is your potential now? You give rise to interactions, you receive the interactional impacts and you dissolve them. What more do you want? Understand this and never say, any impact of interaction is too much for me. Everything is bearable, and I can wipe it off. As a formula, what does he say? Yam hina vyathayandyede purusham purusharshabha samadukha sukham dhiram somrudatvaya kalpade. Sukha and dukkha are the only resultants of your whole interactional life. How many times shall I say this? Of all the interactions in your life, sukha and dukkha are the only resultants in your mind. Am I clear? So what do you have to treat here? You have to treat the interactions one after the other or the resultants sukha and dukkha. And where are they? In your mind. That is why I say meditation is a must. What will you meditate upon? Meditate upon this fact. All the interactions which appear to be various, numerous, they are 5-fold by the senses, made 5-fold by the senses and 2-fold by the mind. They are certainly subject to obliteration by the mind itself as it happens in sleep. So what do you have to do? Samadukha sukham dhiram somrudatvaya kalpade. Sukha arises and it subsides. Then dukkha arises. That also subsides. Both are mutual. Both are complementary. Either one of them, no, it is not possible. Both of them will be there. Otherwise, none will be there. What is sukha is actually? Sukha is what? It is the disappearance of the previous dukkha. So before sukha you had dukkha. If you did not have dukkha earlier, will you have now sukha? Yes or no? So is dukkha necessary or not? Only to have sukha. And the present sukha leads you to dukkha. So is it desirable? Tell me. Now, then what is desirable between the two? So samadukha sukham dhiram. The only desirable factor there is that in between the middle presence, as I told you yesterday. Samadukha sukham dhiram. Every sukha is in between two middle points. Every dukkha is also in between two middle points. Now focus your attention on the middle. It is the middle that gives rise to seemingly sukha and seemingly dukkha. Try to discover this reality and remain there firm and unshakable. If you are able to do so, amritatvaya kalpade, you have become fit for liberation. You deserve liberation. The liberation is fit for us. We are fit for it. Only when you are able to look at sukha-dukkhas as mutual and complementary, and you will not be deluded by sukha or even depressed by dukkha. Have a uniform attitude towards both. These are the only two resultants of all your interactions in life. Whether you marry, you have a child, you have a promotion, you become the corporate head, you get a lottery, a bumper lottery, anything that you say. Now, meditation will be necessary. Go into and find out the middle point. Where from sukha arises? It arose from the middle point. At one point it is sukha. Subsequently it becomes dukkha. The source remains the same. From the same source, how can different experiences arise? So either the source is incorrect or whatever is appearing from there, that is wrong. Try to find out the whole mistake. Don't run after sukha and don't be depressed by dukkha. Allow them to come and go. If they want to, you keep quiet. Sama dukkha sukham dhiram somridatvaya kalpade. In the 15th chapter also he says the same thing. Nirmana moha jida sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha dvandvair vimuktaha sukha dukkha samjnaihi gacchantya moodhaah padam avyayam tad. I don't have time to explain the whole of it. Dvandvair vimuktaha. A man becomes liberated, free. Dvandvaihi. In association with the pairs of opposites, the sukha dukkha's. Try to be afloat sukha and dukkha by dropping the preference to one or the prejudice to another. Your mind is capable of doing anything whatsoever. Now it divides, and it makes you a seeker of sukha and a hater of dukkha. The first delusion cast by the mind. Understand it. I am no more an aspirant of sukha because it comes after dukkha and it leads to dukkha. That which follows dukkha and leads to dukkha, how can it be desirable in between? So clearly declare, I am not a seeker of happiness, nor am I a hater of unhappiness. Overcome this love and hatred in your mind, and you remain full and complete and abundant within yourself. Now these are words spoken by me and heard by you. Now you have to actualize them. Actualize them. For actualizing, you require to sit in a place and enter into the mind arena and discover the process there. How the mind produces the thought. How the mind produces happiness. How the same mind produces unhappiness. How it produces the delusion. And how it makes me suffer in the process. It is a creation of your mind. Get into the mind. Try to understand the intricacy of it. And learn to manage it. Do not foster any preference or any prejudice. Either drop the prejudice or drop the preference. The other becomes redundant and unrelated then. And float in the ecstasy of that residual harmony or uniformity. We shall stop today. Meditation is not everything. We can do meditation for something like an hour a day. People like you can only do that much. 1 hour a day and 24 hours of the day. 7 hours we sleep. So 7 plus 1, 8. 16 hours we are wakeful and interacting. So during the course of the 16 hours, what shall we do to support our meditation and to strengthen the further meditation? Now that is the biggest question for the meditators. That is why I say meditation and beyond. We shall try to throw some light tomorrow on the subject meditation and beyond, that beyond factor. So tomorrow we shall discuss what after meditation. Is meditation everything? No. Then besides meditation, what is the orientation or culture or sublimation we have to adopt to accompany us throughout the day's interactions? That will be the subject. Harihi, Harihi. We shall have the conclusional Omkara recitation in chorus. Thereafter, we shall stop. Oh, I used to recite a verse, I forgot. So I will do it again. संवेद्यवर्जितमनुत्तममेकमाद्यं संवित्पदं विकलनं कलयन् महात्मन् हृद्येव तिष्ठ कलनारहितः क्रियां तु कुर्वन् अकर्तृपदमेत्य शमोदितश्रीः कुर्वन् अकर्तृपदमेत्य शमोदितश्रीः. We shall have the chorus recitation once again. Harihi, Harihi, Harihi. Harihi Om Tas Jai Guru.